of women that are here to support one another, to connect, to be vulnerable, to share our stories, and to all leverage what we go through to be able to grow through the journey together. It's so, so exciting, and even we're already having some really deep, vulnerable conversations at our table and some tears and some connections, so it's incredibly exciting. And what I'm going to be talking to you about today is power and fear. And they're not two things that typically get partnered together, and yet what I will tell you is, as I've created a life that is literally beyond my wildest dreams, that I kid you not, I pinch myself daily, and I am brought to tears of gratitude continuously, day after day, because of how much I really enjoy being me and living the life that I live. What I have found is that one of the biggest keys to creating an epic and legendary life is to consciously define power for yourself. To make sure that you're not using someone else's model of power, which we just saw Lisa describe as well, the one who got the award, how cool this is. So I'll be tying that in. And then also to leverage fear as a catalyst, to lean into fear. So we'll be talking about both of those things. And one of the things that on my own journey was a really redefining moment was when I realized that the path I was taking was someone else's. So in our household growing up, and as we were talking at our table, we each had our own template that was given to us from our family, our culture, society. In my household, it was, you graduate high school. This is the path to power, y'all. You graduate high school. After high school, you go to college, whether you want to or not. After college, you get a job, whatever that job is, but it better be a good job. It better pay you really well. And then you climb, whatever. So I chose the corporate mountain. That's what I was doing. And then you arrive there. That is the promised land of fulfillment. It is the promised land of happiness. It is the promised land of power. It is there, wherever is the top of the mountain that you're climbing. So I was like, okay. So I was in the corporate world. And when I walked in, I said, I'm going to set my sights to get to the top. And there was a particular position in the company that I said, this is the most prestigious title that I could have. That's my land of there. That is where power will exist. That is when I will feel amazing. That is when things will feel like I get to have life figured out. It'll be great. And for 6 years, I devoted my life, my energy, my body, my time to that goal. We all have something we're doing this with, by the way. There's a there that each of us has. There's a goal that we thought once we arrive, that's when we get to feel how we want to feel. And I got there. I got to the top of the corporate mountain. I remember receiving the news that I had received the position. And when I tell you that I was just filled with euphoric bliss and joy, and it was such a profound experience and happiness, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what they were talking about. People kept telling me, my family kept saying, this is when you will get to experience what you want. Now, granted, my family may not think that's what they were telling me, but subconsciously, this is what I had been fed throughout my entire existence, and just that's what you do. I felt so alive for 2 days. What? Right? Amen. Right? I can actually still feel, my body is going back to that moment. It's time traveling. What? I sacrificed 6 years of my life for 2 days. I was lucky I got 2 days. For 2 days of fleeting, momentary fulfillment. I have goosebumps everywhere. because that was one of the most profound awakening moments for me to realize that the path to power and how I even was defining power was someone else's. It also awakened me to taking a look at the cost of power. Okay? Lisa actually described it to us on her own. Your body. I had at this stage of my life, and I'll explain this picture in a second, but this actually is when I thought, what is the image that I could offer you of what power looked like for 6 years of my life? It's that. I had 5 autoimmune associated disorders, one of which was chronic inflammation of the sinuses, sinusitis. So I was a walking pharmacy, and I constantly had Benadryl with me because I would sneeze and get itchy, I'd get hives, my body was trying to tell me, you're off path, girl, you're off path, but I didn't know it at the time. And so what else did I do? Oh, well, I was relaxing. I was buying my own BS. I was lying to myself and saying, I'm going to treat myself to some wine. I'm going to relax and let off some steam. Because I was putting in 18 hours a day and literally sacrificing everything to arrive there. What you'll notice about this picture is the juxtaposition and contrast. Hey, look at how powerful she is. She has more money. That girl was making $250,000 a year. She's so powerful. What? Job security, 401k, gorgeous condo. My car was paid off. I was winning at life, y'all. Right. Do you see? I didn't see. I was blindly following the path that someone else had laid out for me. And so not only did that moment of awakening in the, wow, this was fleeting after 2 days, I started going on my own path to actually explore, what does power even mean? And I started doing things like going on retreats and reading books and getting a life coach and working with a therapist. And one of the ladies that I worked with asked me a question that would radically transform my life. She was listening to, she could actually see what I couldn't see. Sometimes we can't see what everyone else can see. Thank God she mirrored it back. Thank God for people who are honest with us. What a gift. And she looked at me and she said, do you think you're lovable? What? I didn't even know what that meant. Was I confident in what I thought confidence was? Yeah. Was I an achiever? Did I have money? All of these things that I had, did I get good grades? Was I a good student? All of these things that I had thought my entire life, and yet no one had ever stopped to ask me how I felt about me. What? The question, do you think you're lovable? I could not get the word yes to come out of my mouth. Take a moment to ask you, do you think you're lovable? Do you know how lovable you are? What do you want? What would make you light up? What is your purpose in life? What does power mean to you? We're so busy listening to the chatter of the world outside of us and or in our head that we never stop to consciously ask ourselves, what do I want? Who do I want to be? What would allow me to be proud of being me? And so I started to ask myself those questions. And my life radically transformed. So in the first picture I showed you what I was using as a corporate mountain. I decided to go out and climb some real mountains. One of the pictures on the slide is actually me climbing an actual mountain. It was awful. So let me save you in case you decide, we're going to go mountaineering. Look up what that word means before you do it. But it was an experience that allowed me to realize that I was going to choose my dreams and living and really giving myself permission to experience life instead of choosing fear. I decided I wanted to fly. I love flying. I don't know why. It's just something that really excites me in terms of literal, metaphorical. One of those pictures, I'm hang gliding. Why? Because I wanted to. I wanted the experience. And when people ask me, why do you do these things? Because I want to. Right. I'm sorry. Are you me? No, thanks. I tried on someone else's path for a really long time, and it didn't work. I was sleepwalking for 6 years. Hell no. So now I do whatever I want because I want to. And when my head wants to tell me, why are you doing this? What's going on? We were just talking about this at our table, right? There's this version of our head that wants answers. What is the logical reason that you would get to strap yourself in to fly in the air? And I'm like, because it's fun. My brain's like, my brain doesn't know what to do with that. So it's understanding that we get to live a life according to our heart. That is power. We get to love being us. I decided I was going to create my identity. I was going to create my path. And I just started living. I started writing. I started creating things that I love doing. I started leaving imprints on the world in any way that I possibly could that would light me up. And what you'll notice is the word heal at the top. And it's funny, you're going to see a theme here in power, similar to Lisa. I healed my body of all 5 autoimmune associated disorders. Because when you're off path, your body is actually telling you that you're off path. But what do? Yeah, we take a pill. Yeah, we medicate. We say, oh, you're screaming at me, but I'm really busy being powerful. So I'll get back to you, but I'm going to take this pill. Versus listening to your body. Your body is trying to talk to you, and when you're on path, your body will also tell you, which is what Lisa said, what I'm saying, you're seeing a theme here, that you get to thrive in your health as well. So I'm going to ask you, before we go into exploring fear, take a moment to think about, what does power actually mean to you? What is it that you actually want in life? And when you think about your definitions, what are some of the paths of power or definitions of power that you might need to unbecome and hand back to someone else in order for you to be able to create the life that is according to your own terms? No limits, no rules. Everything gets to be from heart and soul and desire. You're the master creator of your life. And asking yourself, what do you really want? And what I'll say is, because I know we have a lot of high achievers and growth individuals in here, or else we wouldn't be here. One of the things is to make sure that as you're following your path, that you constantly check in with yourself and say, is this still what I want? Because I will tell you, I have gotten pretty far down some paths and gone, nah, I don't really think this is for me. And the brain's like, I'm sorry, what? All this time we put into it and all this stuff that we did. Oh my God, what do you mean? No, this is the path. You told us this was the path. And the brain's like, pa, 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 pa. And the heart's like, nah, check in with yourself. In order for me at the very beginning of my journey to get very conscious of checking in, I would put calendar reminders. I would just be like, check in with yourself. And I'm constantly able to make sure that I am living life for me. And I'm not doing something because I should or because it's someone else's. So let's also talk about what is your relationship with fear, because that is such a catalyst and conduit of like mind-blowing possibility of power. Because what happens is, what I've learned about fear, not only with myself, but in working with people, I've been studying power and studying our minds for 6 years because it's so interesting to me and really wanting to help women be able to create a life that they love. Fear is one of those things you have to have some upfront agreements with yourself about how you're going to handle yourself when fear comes up. You have to decide ahead of time. If you think, yeah, no, I'll make that decision when I'm faced with fear, I promise you, you'll choose comfort. Tomorrow sounds real good, y'all. Yeah. I'm not ready right now, but I'll be ready like in a week from now or a year from now. And oh, you know what? I just need to learn some more things. You do not become powerful by learning up here in your head. You become powerful by learning in here in your body. You have to do the thing you're afraid of to get the reference point that you didn't die, the world didn't end, and actually it always ends up being more magical than you could ever think of. So let me give you an example of a story. I remember I got a call from a friend of a friend. I was doing a trip where I was going to be flying. At the time, I lived in right outside of Chicago, and I was going to Miami. And the friend of a friend calls and says, hey, I heard a rumor about you that if you're afraid of something, you'll say yes to it. So I've got something I want to throw at you. Ugh. It's actually pretty notorious now, so I get myself into some interesting situations. But they all stretch me. I grow, I learn, I get to be a different version of me every time. And so he says, so we have this stand-up thing that we're doing, stand-up comedy, and we would like you to come do it with us. Comedy? Yeah, right? Oh my God, whoever just said that. Yeah, exactly. Like, all this chatter was going on and on in my head of, I'm not a comedian, what are you talking about? That scares me. My body, I wanted to throw up. That is always a clue you are onto some really good growth, by the way. I just remember every piece of my being wanting to have some reason that I couldn't make it. I hear this a lot whenever someone asks me to do something. Oh, I'm real busy that day. My head always says that. And then my heart's like, they didn't tell you what day it was. I'm like, shut up. So my upfront agreement with myself that I decide ahead of time is that every single time I am asked to do something and I feel like throwing up or there's resistance or I'm afraid or anything outside of the realm of, yeah! Oh, I say yes to that stuff too. But my agreement is to say yes and to figure it out as I go. Right? It's like the Martin Luther King quote, right? You just have to see the first step or two. Like, you don't need to see the whole staircase. Fear wants you to believe you have to know it all to do it. So, okay, so so I said yes, reluctantly. I tried to think of all the reasons to get out of it. I couldn't think of any without having a conscious dialogue with myself that I wouldn't actually be proud of being me if I said no. So I went. And my biggest fear was that they were going to have tomatoes and they were gonna like throw rotten tomatoes at the stage. It was ridiculous. So, I also know like it is so rare that your worst case scenario would ever happen anyways. I'm good. And I get there, and the gentleman who was hosting the event said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight. We're so excited. What you will notice is there are tomatoes on your tables. And we would request that if someone sucks, that you throw them at them and boo." I'm sorry, what? You're going to notice in growth, when you genuinely are owning your power, you'll have a lot of those moments. What? You want me to do what? Now, granted, they were not rotten tomatoes, so that was good. They were the type of, they were like those little foam tomatoes. And the time between me going and when they started was 4 hours. So my worst case scenario was actually worse because I didn't even think they were going to boo me. I just thought they were going to throw tomatoes at me. But now they're encouraged to boo me. Holy crap. So I got up and I don't know, I blacked out. Who knows what I did. But the guy got up after me and said, "Well, she may not be a comedian, but damn if she's not a public speaker." And I was like, what? What? I'm noticing a theme here. Oh, that's interesting. What? I had never considered myself that path. That was not even something I thought was a possibility. That was not a part of an identity. Leaning into fear and embracing fear, a new identity was born. Think about the things in your own life that you are afraid of, that when you have done them, you get a new reference point of what is possible, of what you are capable of, and the power that is inside you. Lisa said it herself. Power is not an external, outside job. Power is an inside job. Power is not something that your mother can tell you, your father can tell you, your boss can tell you. You are the only person who knows what you want. We were talking about this at the table too. You are the only person who knows what is going to light you up. You're also the only person who's going to know if you're choosing comfort over your dreams. It requires a ton of radical honesty with yourself. And so what I would ask you today is to really make sure that you are consciously defining power for yourself. Constantly checking in with yourself with, how am I feeling today? How lovable, on a scale of 1 to 10, how lovable do I feel today? And what would allow me to move it up 1 point? If you're at a 5, what would be a 6? It's a journey. Power evolves. And it's important that you give yourself permission to make sure that you are along for the evolution, which means that you have to constantly stretch yourself and lean into fear and do the very things that you didn't think were possible. And when you do, that mind chatter starts to calm down a little bit, because your heart can say, yeah, but do you remember that one time where your worst case scenario was they were going to throw tomatoes at you, and then you got there and it was actually even worse than that? And then a public speaker was born? So I invite you to make sure that not only for yourself and also for others, that you realize power is an inside job. And dance with your fears, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Give it up for Morgan. And Morgan, we have a little something for you. We have a little something for you, honey. Thank you so much for coming all the way in from Miami. On behalf of the City of First United States Women's Power Brunch, we want to acknowledge you and just thank you so much for being an outstanding, excellent, elite leader in our community, in our world. And we celebrate you for trusting you and stepping into your power. Thank you so much. Give her a diamond welcome, guys.